The morning sun cast rainbow patterns through the crystal walls of the Velkin Palace. Princess Zara stood in her private garden, watching the colorful flowers that grew only on her home planet. Today was special. Her father, Emperor Thane, had invited important visitors from across the galaxy to discuss trade agreements. Zara loved these gatherings because they gave her a chance to show off her wit and intelligence. At 19 years old, Princess Zara was considered one of the most beautiful and sharp-tongued royals in the known galaxy. Her silver skin glowed like moonlight, and her purple eyes sparkled with mischief. She wore flowing robes of deep blue that marked her royal status. Everyone who met her remembered her quick words and proud nature. The garden filled with guests as the morning continued. Tall Chronari delegates stood near the fountain, their rock-like gray skin making them look like living statues. These beings were known for their incredible physical strength and could lift objects 10 times. Heavier than most other species? Next to them, the graceful Silvari representatives floated slightly above the ground, their pale white forms shimmering as they communicated through telepathy. The Silvari could read thoughts and speak without moving their lips, a power that made other species both envious and nervous. Near the exotic flower beds, a group of Nexari merchants examined the rare plants with their forearms and multiple eyes. The Nexar were master traders who could calculate complex deals in seconds using their enhanced brains. Their green-scaled skin reflected the garden light as they whispered among themselves about potential business opportunities. All of these species had joined the Galactic Council centuries ago. They had advanced technology, natural abilities that seemed magical, and long histories of space travel. Then there were the humans. Ben Miller stood at attention near the garden entrance. He was 25 years old and had been assigned to Princess Zara's personal security detail just 3 weeks ago. His brown hair was cut short in military style, and his green eyes stayed alert as he watched the crowd. Ben wore the standard armor of the Royal Guard, a silver and blue suit that covered his entire body except for his head. The armor was advanced technology that could protect against energy weapons and enhance his strength. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago. Most species still considered them newcomers who had gotten lucky with their technology. Unlike other species, humans had no natural advantages. They could not lift enormous weights like the Chronari, read minds like the Silvari, or calculate like the Nexari. They were just ordinary beings who had somehow developed space travel. Princess Zara noticed Ben standing quietly and smiled. She had been thinking of ways to entertain her guests, and the human guard gave her a perfect opportunity. "Ladies and gentlemen," Princess Zara called out in her clear voice, "I would like to show you something amusing." Conversation stopped as all eyes turned to the princess. She walked gracefully toward Ben, her blue robes flowing behind her like water. "This is our newest security guard," she announced, gesturing toward Ben with an elegant wave of her hand. "A human. I thought you might find it interesting to observe one of their species up close." Ben kept his eyes forward and remained silent. His training had taught him to stay professional no matter what happened during royal events. Princess Zara began walking in a slow circle around Ben, studying him like a scientist examining a specimen. "Notice how plain they appear," she said to her audience. "No natural armor like our Chronari friends. No telepathic abilities like the wonderful Silvari. No enhanced intelligence like our Nexari partners." The Chronari delegate, General Rock, made a sound that might have been laughter. His deep voice rumbled across the garden. "Princess, surely there must be something special about humans. They did reach the stars somehow." "Oh yes," Princess Zara replied with mock enthusiasm. "They are quite clever with their tools. But take away their machines and what remains? Just a soft, weak creature that cannot even survive on most planets without artificial help." She stopped in front of Ben and looked up at him. Ben stood 6 feet tall, which made him average for a human but shorter than most other species represented in the garden. Princess Zara, despite being only 5.5 feet tall, somehow managed to make Ben seem small with her commanding presence. "Look at this armor he wears," she continued, reaching out to tap the chest piece. "Without it, a single shot from an energy weapon would eliminate him. His own skin provides no protection at all. How pathetic is that?" A Silvari representative, Lady Mira, spoke without moving her lips. her voice appearing directly in everyone's mind. Princess, perhaps humans have other qualities that compensate for their physical limitations, such as, Princess Zara asked with raised eyebrows. Their emotions? Humans are ruled by their feelings. They make decisions based on anger, fear, and sentiment rather than logic. This makes them unpredictable and dangerous to themselves. She walked around Ben again, this time stopping to examine his hands. These fingers are so delicate. No claws, no enhanced strength. A Kronari could crush them without effort. A Nexari could outcalculate them in any negotiation. A Sylvari could control their thoughts if they chose to. Ben's jaw tightened slightly, but he continued staring straight ahead. Princess Zara noticed this small reaction and smiled wider. Did you see that? She asked her audience excitedly. The human just showed emotion. They cannot even control their facial expressions properly. In royal court, such lack of discipline would be considered a major failure. A Nexari merchant named Trader Vex spoke up with his quick, clicking voice. Princess Zara, humans have created some impressive technology. Their ships are quite efficient. Stolen designs, Princess Zara waved dismissively. Or crude copies of our superior engineering. Humans stumbled into space travel by accident. They were probably trying to make better weapons to fight each other with. She paused dramatically before continuing. Did you know that humans actually fight wars among their own species? Even now, with all the wonders of the galaxy available to them, they still waste time in conflicts with each other. What civilized species does such things? The garden guests murmured among themselves. Most advanced species had stopped internal conflicts thousands of years ago. The idea of fighting your own people seemed primitive and wasteful. And their lifespan, Princess Zara laughed as if she had just remembered something hilarious. Humans live for maybe 100 years if they are extremely lucky. Most die much sooner. We Velkans live for 300 years. The Kronari live for 500. Humans barely have time to learn anything useful before they die. Ben's breathing changed slightly. Princess Zara caught this too. Oh, did that bother you, human? She asked sweetly. The truth about your short, meaningless existence? Do not worry. Your brief life will soon be over, and the galaxy will continue just fine without you. General Rock shifted uncomfortably, even though he belonged to a warrior species. Something about the princess's words felt cruel rather than entertaining. Princess. Zara seemed to be enjoying herself more with each insult. Tell me, human, what did your family do before you joined the Royal Guard? Were they farmers? Factory workers? Some other simple job that requires no real skill? For the first time, Ben's eyes moved slightly. He glanced down at Princess Zara for just a moment before looking straight ahead again. Ah, I struck something important there. Princess Zara clapped her hands together. Let me guess. Your parents worked very hard at very simple jobs to give you opportunities they never had. How touching. How ordinary. How perfectly human. She turned to address the crowd again. This is what I find most amusing about humans. They think their hard work and determination mean something special. Every species works hard. The difference is that when we work hard, we actually accomplish great things. When humans work hard, they accomplish what other species could do easily. Lady Mira's telepathic voice seemed concerned. Princess, perhaps we should discuss the trade agreements now. In a moment, Princess Zara replied, I am not finished with my demonstration. She walked very close to Ben, looking up at his face. Human, do you know why your species was allowed to join the Galactic Council? It was not because of your impressive abilities or your valuable contributions. It was because we felt sorry for you. The garden became very quiet. Even the gentle sound of the fountain seemed to fade. Your planet was so backward, so primitive, so hopeless that the council voted to help you out of pity. We gave you technology, taught you about space travel, and shared our knowledge because we felt bad for such a simple species. At Ben's hands, which had been relaxed at his sides, slowly formed fists. And now, Princess Zara continued, you wear our armor, carry our weapons, and pretend to be guards in our palaces. But you are just playing dress-up, are you not? Underneath all that borrowed technology, You are still the same weak, short-lived, emotional creatures you always were. She reached up and tapped Ben's helmet with one finger. This armor probably weighs more than you could normally lift. Without it, you would be helpless. With it, you are just a child playing soldier. The insults continued for several more minutes. Princess Zara talked about human food being disgusting, human culture being boring, and human art being childish compared to the masterpieces created by other species. She mentioned how humans smelled strange, looked plain, and acted unpredictably. Through it all, Ben remained standing at attention. But small changes began to appear in his posture. His breathing became slightly deeper. His jaw muscles tensed and relaxed repeatedly. His eyes, while still looking straight ahead, began to show something that had not been there before. Really? When you think about it, Princess Zara said, as she completed another circle around Ben, humans are just a mistake that the galaxy is too polite to correct. You add nothing valuable to our civilization. You bring no special skills, no unique perspectives, no important contributions. You are simply taking up space that could be used by a more worthy species. Something in Ben's expression shifted. The change was so subtle that only someone looking closely would notice it. But Princess Zara was looking very closely, and she saw. "What does that look? Human?" she asked with delight. "Are you angry? Are your primitive emotions getting the better of you?" How perfectly typical. Ben did not answer. Instead, did something that surprised everyone in the garden. He reached up and began removing his helmet. The clicking and whirry sounds of the armor's release. Mechanisms filled the quiet garden. Ben set his helmet down carefully on the ground next to his feet. His brown hair was slightly messy from wearing the helmet, and his face showed no expression at all. Princess Zara stepped back, uncertain. This was not the reaction she had expected. Ben continued, removing his armor. The chest piece came off next, revealing the simple gray uniform underneath. The armor was heavy, and removing it required careful movements to avoid dropping the expensive equipment. Ben showed no signs of strain as he worked. "What are you doing, human?" Princess Zara asked. Her voice had lost some of its confident mockery. Ben did not answer. He removed the arm pieces next, then the leg guards. Each piece was placed carefully on the ground in a neat arrangement. The guests watched in fascination as more and more of the advanced armor came off. When the last piece was removed, Ben straightened up. He wore only his basic gray uniform, simple black boots, and a utility belt with a few small tools. Without the armor, he looked much smaller and more ordinary than before. Princess Zara stared at him, confused by this unexpected turn of events. "I do not understand. Why did you remove your protective equipment?" Ben looked directly at Princess Zara for the first time during the entire encounter. His green eyes were calm and steady. He did not look angry or hurt or defeated. He simply looked like someone who had made a decision. "You are right, Princess," Ben said quietly. His voice was steady and clear. "Humans are not special. We do not have natural armor or telepathic powers or enhanced strength. We live short lives and make mistakes, and sometimes fight among ourselves." The garden was completely silent now. Every guest leaned forward to hear what the human would say next. "You are also right that this armor does not belong to me," Ben continued. "It belongs to the Royal Guard, and the Royal Guard serves the royal family with honor and dignity. Since you have made it clear that humans are not worthy of such service, I am returning the armor." Princess Zara's purple eyes widened. "You cannot just stop being a guard. You have a contract. You have duties." "Yes, I do," Ben agreed, "and I will continue to perform those duties to the best of my ability. But I will do them as what I actually am, not as what this armor pretends I might be." He looked around at the assembled guests, meeting each of their eyes briefly before returning his gaze to Princess Zara. "You wanted to show everyone what humans really are beneath all the borrowed technology and artificial enhancements? Well, this is what we are. We are people who know our limitations and work within them. We are people who do not need to be special to do our jobs well." Ben took one step backward, and gave Princess Zara a formal bow. Exactly as military protocol required when addressing royalty. If you'll excuse me. Princess, I have duties to attend to. Without waiting for a response, Ben turned around and walked away. His footsteps were quiet on the crystal path as he headed toward the palace. He did not look back, did not hurry, did not show any signs of anger or embarrassment. He simply left. Princess Zara stood in the middle of her garden, surrounded by expensive armor and staring at the spot where Ben had been standing. For the first time in her 19 years of life, she found herself completely unable to think of anything to say. The garden remained silent for a long moment. Then General Rock cleared his throat with a sound like rolling thunder. "Princess," he said slowly, "I believe that human just taught us something very interesting about his species." Lady Mira's telepathic voice whispered to everyone present, "Indeed, I have never seen anyone respond to humiliation with such dignity." Trader Vex clicked thoughtfully. "Perhaps humans are more complex than we assumed." Princess Zara looked down at the abandoned armor, then up at the path Ben had taken. Something in her chest felt strange, like a weight she had never noticed before. For the rest of the day, she could not stop thinking about the quiet dignity in Ben's eyes as he walked away. 3 hours had passed since Ben walked away from Princess Zara's garden. The afternoon sun was beginning to set, painting the crystal walls of the Velkin Palace in shades of orange and gold. The royal guests had moved their discussions to the main conference hall, where Emperor Thane was presenting trade proposals to the various species representatives. Princess Zara sat in her private chambers, staring out the window at the garden where the morning's events had taken place. She had changed from her formal blue robes into a simpler purple dress, but her mind remained focused on the human guard, who had surprised her so completely. She kept replaying the moment when Ben removed his armor. In all her years of verbal sparring with various beings, no one had ever responded like that. Most people either fought back with angry words or simply endured her comments in silence. But Ben had done something entirely different. He had accepted her criticism and then walked away with his dignity intact. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Her personal attendant, a young Velkin woman named Kira, stepped into the room. Kira's silver skin was darker than the princess's, marking her as someone from the working class rather than royalty. "Princess, your father requests your presence in the conference hall," Kira said with a respectful bow. "Of course he does," Princess Zara sighed. "Tell him I will be there shortly." As Kira turned to leave, Princess Zara called out to her. "Wait, Kira, what do you think of humans?" The attendant looked surprised by the question. "Princess, I do not have much experience with their species. I have only met a few of the human staff members who work in the palace. But what is your impression of them?" Kira considered this carefully. "They seem to work very hard, Princess. The human maintenance workers often stay late to complete their tasks. They are polite and helpful when I need assistance with technical problems." "Do you think they are weak?" "Physically, yes, Princess. They cannot lift heavy objects like a Chronari or process information like a Nexori. But they seem to find ways around these limitations. Yesterday, I watched a human engineer solve a complex repair problem by using 3 different tools in a way that none of them were designed for." Princess Zara nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you, Kira. You may go." After her attendant left, Princess Zara continued staring out the window. The garden looked peaceful in the fading sunlight. The armor Ben had removed still sat in a neat pile where he had left it. For some reason, no one had bothered to collect it yet. The princess was still lost in thought. When the first alarm began to sound, the warning signal started as a low hum that gradually increased in volume and urgency. Princess Zara had heard the sound during emergency drills, but never during an actual threat. She ran to her communication panel and activated the emergency channel. All residents and guests of the royal palace, came the voice of Commander Nash, the head of palace security. "We are detecting unknown ships approaching the system. These vessels have not responded to our identification requests. All non-essential personnel should move to secure locations immediately." Princess Zara's heart began beating faster. The Velkin system had not faced any serious threats in over 50 years. Their location deep within council space made attacks extremely rare. She moved to her window that faced toward space and activated the magnification system. Far in the distance, she could see small, dark shapes moving against the starfield. Even at maximum magnification, the ships were too far away to identify clearly. The communication system crackled again. This time, Commander Nash's voice sounded more urgent. All guests and royal family members report to the throne room immediately. We have confirmed that the approaching vessels are void hunters. This is not a drill. Princess Zara felt cold fear wash over her entire body. Void hunters were not ordinary pirates or raiders. They were one of the most dangerous species in known space. Beings who refused to join any civilized government and survived by hunting other intelligent life forms. They were known for taking prisoners, especially young members of royal families, using them for ransom or worse purposes. The princess grabbed a communication device and ran toward the throne room. The palace corridors, normally quiet and elegant, now filled with the sounds of running footsteps and urgent voices. Royal guards in their silver and blue armor moved quickly through the halls, checking security systems and preparing defensive positions. When Princess Zara reached the throne room, she found her father standing near the main tactical display with General Rock and the other visiting delegates. Emperor Thane looked calm, but she could see worry in his eyes. "Father, how many ships are coming?" she asked as she approached. 15 vessels, Emperor Thane replied. "They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of our system and are moving directly toward the capital planet." General Rock studied the tactical display with his experienced military eye. "These are not random raiders, Emperor. This appears to be a planned assault. They know exactly where they are going." Lady Mira's telepathic voice reached everyone in the room. "I am attempting to read their intentions, but something is blocking my mental abilities." The Void Hunters must have developed new shielding technology. Trader Vex clicked nervously as he calculated various possibilities. If they have 15 ships, they probably have between 300 and 400 individual hunters. Our palace guard numbers? Only 200. Princess Zara looked around the room for Ben, but realized he would not be there. Human guards were not considered important enough to participate in high-level security meetings. She wondered where he was and what he might be doing. Commander Nash's voice came through the communication system again. "Enemy ships have entered orbit. They are beginning landing operations at multiple points around the palace complex. Estimated time until they reach the main building is 20 minutes. Emperor Thane turned to his guests. "I apologize for this situation. My security forces will escort you to the protected bunkers beneath the palace." "No," General Rock said firmly. "Kronari, do not hide from battle. My warriors and I will help defend this palace. We Sylvari will use our abilities to coordinate the defense," Lady Myra added. The Nexari merchants, however, were already moving toward the exits. Trader Vex spoke quickly as he left. "We will remember this alliance if we survive. Good luck." Over the next 15 minutes, the palace transformed into a fortress. Kronari warriors took positions at key defensive points, their natural armor and strength making them excellent guards. Sylvari telepaths established communication, networks that allowed instant coordination between different areas of the palace. The remaining royal guards, both alien and human, prepared weapons and checked protective barriers. Princess Zara found herself in the throne room with several other young nobles and important guests. This was supposed to be the most secure location in the palace, protected by multiple layers of defensive systems and guards. The first explosions came exactly 20 minutes after the ships had landed. The sounds of energy weapons and combat echoed through the crystal walls. Princess Zara could hear Commander Nash giving orders over the communication system, but his reports grew more desperate as time passed. Eastern wall breached. Kronar, defensive team falling back. Void hunters have reached the second floor. They are using some kind of new weapons that penetrate our energy shields. Sylvari telepathic network is being disrupted. Lady Myra reports that the hunters have mental protection we have never seen before. With each report, Princess Zara realized that their situation was becoming hopeless. The Void Hunters had clearly planned this attack carefully. They had studied the palace defenses and prepared counters for each species. Natural advantages. The sound of fighting grew closer. Princess Zara could hear energy weapons firing in the corridors just outside the throne room. The other young nobles huddled together near the emperor's chair. She moved toward the main entrance to listen for more information. Suddenly, the massive doors to the throne room burst open. 3 void hunters stepped into the chamber, their dark armor covered with strange symbols and their faces hidden behind skull-like masks. They carried advanced energy weapons that looked unlike anything Princess Zara had ever seen. Behind the 3 hunters came their leader, a tall figure whose armor was decorated with trophies from previous raids. The leader's mask had been removed, revealing a face that looked partially reptilian and partially insect-like. Multiple eyes focused on the group of young nobles with obvious satisfaction. "Greetings, royal children," the leader said in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am Huntmaster Vex. We have come to collect some new additions to our trophy collection." General Rock appeared in the doorway behind the hunters, his rock-like skin showing damage from energy weapon hits. "Princess, get back!" he shouted as he charged toward the void hunters. The largest hunter turned and fired a strange, purple energy beam at General Rock, the Kronari warrior, who should have been able to resist most energy weapons, collapsed immediately. His stone-like skin turned gray and lifeless. "Kronari strength means nothing against hunter technology," Huntmaster Vex laughed. "Silvari telepathy cannot penetrate our mental shields. Nexari intelligence cannot calculate a solution to weapons they have never seen before." Lady Myra tried to use her telepathic abilities to call for help, but clutched her head in pain as the hunter's mental shielding caused feedback in her mind. "And what of humans?" Huntmaster Vex asked mockingly as his hunters moved toward the group of nobles. "Where are the mighty human defenders? Did they run away at the first sign of danger?" Just as the hunters raised their weapons toward Princess Zara and the others, a voice spoke from the shadows near the side entrance to the throne room. Way we to realize it for a way I to wire to we with I will to say why to so to say that we were Ben stepped into the light. He still wore only his basic gray uniform and simple equipment. No armor, no advanced weapons, just a standard energy rifle and a few basic tools on his utility belt. The Void Hunters turned toward him and began laughing. Huntmaster Vex's multiple eyes glittered with amusement. "With no armor? This is the great defense of the royal palace?" "Just me," Ben confirmed calmly. He raised his energy rifle and fired at the nearest hunter. The shot hit the alien's armor, but had no visible effect. The hunter's laughter grew louder. "Human weapons cannot penetrate our protection," Huntmaster Vex declared. "Your technology is too primitive." "You are probably right about that." Then he did something unexpected. Instead of firing again, he threw his rifle at the hunter's feet and dove behind one of the large, decorative pillars that supported the throne room ceiling. The hunters moved toward his position, confident in their superior armor and weapons. But Ben was no longer where they expected him to be. What happened next amazed everyone watching. Ben had not hidden behind the pillar. Instead, he had used it to reach the decorative lighting system that ran along the ceiling. Within seconds, he had rewired several light fixtures to overload. The first explosion of sparks and electrical energy came from directly above the hunters. They looked up in surprise as burning components rained down on them. Ben used this distraction to drop back to floor level behind a different pillar. Huntmaster Vex fired his weapon at Ben's new position, but the human had already moved again. The energy beam hit the crystal wall and created a shower of sharp fragments that scattered across the floor. "Stop moving and die with dignity," the Huntmaster shouted in frustration. "I would rather keep moving and live." "Without dignity?" Ben replied from somewhere in the shadows. The hunters spread out to surround his position, but Ben seemed to anticipate their movements. He had somehow obtained several pieces of broken crystal from the damaged wall and was using them as tools. Princess Zara watched in fascination as Ben wedged crystal shards into the joints of the nearest hunter's armor. The alien's advanced protection was designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, but it had not been built to handle small fragments working their way into the mechanical systems. The hunter's left arm stopped moving properly. Then his leg began to malfunction. Within minutes, the supposedly superior armor had become a prison that limited the alien's movement. Ben moved on to the second hunter, using a completely different approach. This time, he used his utility tools to create a simple electromagnetic pulse device from components of the damaged lighting system. When activated, it disrupted the hunter's weapon systems and caused his energy rifle to explode in his hands. Huntmaster Vex began to realize that he was not facing an ordinary opponent. "What kind of human are you?" he demanded. "The regular kind," Ben answered, as he continued working. "We do not have special powers or natural advantages, so we learn to use what is available." The human had somehow managed to turn the throne room itself into a weapon. Every decorative element, every piece of furniture, every damaged component became part of his strategy. He used the crystal walls to create reflective surfaces that confused the hunter's targeting systems. He turned the ventilation system into a way to move unseen through the room. He even used the royal carpet to create traps that tangled the alien's feet. Most importantly, Ben showed no fear. The Void Hunters were known throughout the galaxy as some of the most terrifying warriors in existence, but Ben treated them like any other problem. That needed to be solved through careful thinking and creative solutions. When Huntmaster Vex finally realized that his remaining hunter was unconscious and his own armor was malfunctioning, he tried to retreat. But Ben had been preparing for this moment. The human had used his time to rewire the throne room security systems. When Huntmaster Vex reached the main entrance, the doors sealed shut. The side entrances had been blocked with furniture and debris. The windows had been covered with reflective surfaces that made it impossible to signal for help. "You have trapped yourself in here with us," Huntmaster Vex pointed out. Yes, Ben agreed. That was the idea. The final confrontation lasted only a few minutes. Huntmaster Vex had superior weapons, armor, and physical abilities. But Ben had something the alien had never encountered before: the absolutely stubborn refusal to give up that defined human nature. When his improvised tools failed, Ben used his bare hands. When his strategy stopped working, he created new ones. When Huntmaster Vex knocked him down, he got back up. When the alien damaged his simple equipment, Ben found ways to make it work anyway. In the end, Huntmaster Vex made the same mistake that Princess Zara had made that morning. He underestimated what a human could accomplish when fighting for something important. The Huntmaster lay unconscious on the throne room floor 20 minutes later. His 3 hunters were either disabled or defeated. The palace security forces, led by Commander Nash, arrived to find Ben sitting calmly on the steps leading up to the Emperor's throne. "The Void Hunters in this area have been captured," Ben reported in a professional tone. "I recommend checking the rest of the palace for additional threats." Commander Nash stared at the scene in amazement. "How did you manage this alone?" "I was not alone," Ben replied, looking around the room at Princess Zara and the other people he had protected. "I had plenty of motivation." Over the next hour, reports came in from around the palace. The Void Hunter attack had been completely defeated. Without their leaders and advanced weapons, the remaining hunters had been overwhelmed by the combined forces of Chronari warriors, Sylvari telepaths, and royal guards. Princess Zara approached Ben as the security teams removed the captured aliens. The human had several cuts and bruises from the fight, but he seemed unaware of his injuries. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. Ben looked at her with those same calm green eyes she remembered from the garden. For what, princess? For everything I said this morning. For the way I treated you. For not understanding what humans actually are. You were not wrong about most of it, Ben replied. Humans are not special. We do not have natural advantages or superior abilities. We live short lives and make many mistakes. He gestured toward the unconscious void hunters. But sometimes, not being special is exactly what a situation requires. Those aliens planned for every advanced ability and superior technology they might face. They did not plan for someone who would just refuse to quit. Princess Zara looked down at her hands. I thought strength meant being better than others. Sometimes, Ben agreed. But sometimes strength just means doing what needs to be done. Even when you are not the best person for the job. He started to walk toward the exit, then paused and looked back at her. Princess, you were right that this armor does not belong to me. He gestured toward the pile of equipment still sitting in the garden. But if the royal guard will have me, I would like to earn the right to wear it. Princess Zara smiled for the first time since the attack began. I think that can be arranged. As Ben left the throne room to receive medical attention, Princess Zara remained standing among the crystal fragments and damaged furniture. The most secure room in the palace had been turned into a battlefield and then into a classroom. She had learned that true strength was not about being superior to others. It was about doing your duty regardless of your limitations. And sometimes, the most ordinary people could accomplish the most extraordinary things.